Good evening. Welcome to California Today. I'm Liang Zhang. Here's a preview of some of today's stories. Dozens of suspected drug dealers may get harsher punishment in San Francisco. That's based on the new district attorney's revocation efforts. More people have evacuated the McKinney fire in Northern California. The fire has destroyed one small town in its wake so far. And the insurance giant GEICO has closed all of its California branches. We talked to a corporate location expert on why the company may have made the move. The new district attorney in San Francisco is making new changes in response to the city's drug problem. She announced a new policy to hold drug dealers accountable and revoking misdemeanor pleas from offenders. A San Francisco native told NTD's David Lam that she is hopeful of the new direction from the DA.
On Wednesday, San Francisco District Attorney Brooke Jenkins announced a new policy that prevents drug dealers from being referred to the city's Community Justice Court if they're arrested with over 5 grams of drugs. She also revokes over 30 misdemeanor drug pleas. One native and video journalist told NTD her thoughts. What's your reaction to the SFDA's new policy to hold drug dealers more accountable?
I am really ecstatic. I am hopeful. I can't say that things will certainly change overnight in 1 week or a month, but I'm looking forward to any impact, positive impact this has on the local community and throughout the entire city.
The policy may also add charging enhancements for dealing drugs within 1,000 feet of a school. The DA's office stated that the previous administration policy allowed those with over 500 grams of fentanyl to be referred to the Community Justice Court, which is an alternative to putting people in jail. Xiao said the system was previously abused. Xiao recalls what she said is one of the oddest and blatant moments regarding drug distribution that she'd ever seen in San Francisco.
In recent memory, I was, again, downtown running errands. Obviously, downtown is a very big shopping hub for tourists and locals. And there was this one man who literally was holding in his hand an entire stack of powder.
Xiao said he was going around offering it for free in broad daylight.
Cocaine.
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 How much you selling it for?
Oh, it's free.
Free? Samples?
Yeah.
Oh.
Jenkins said since 2020, nearly 1,500 people have died of drug overdose, partly due to dealers being allowed to operate without punishment. She revoked dozens of misdemeanor open plea offers put forward by the previous administration under Chesa Boudin, who has since been recalled from office this year. The revoked plea offers included a case where one defendant had 6 open incidents for dealing fentanyl in the city's Tenderloin area. He was offered a single misdemeanor to settle all 6 cases.
What I'm hoping is that the revocation of those plea deals, which should have never been issued in the first place, will make it much harder for these victims to seek out the substance, to slow down, if not eventually halt their journey towards death.
For all the revoked pleas, the DA's office is seeking a felony charge that includes jail time. David Lam, NTD News, California.
Evacuees from the wildfire near California-Oregon border learned their homes were burned. Now they're trying to recover.
Residents of Klamath River who evacuated over the weekend are now learning that they won't have a home to return to. 65-year-old Bill Sims was able to get back into the evacuation area to confirm that his home was destroyed. He says he knows 3 of the 4 people who died in the fire.
And it was devastating. I didn't think I'd get emotional. I don't get emotional about stuff, and it's material things, But when you hear my next door neighbors died, Chuck and his wife, they couldn't get out because they always locked their gate, and he couldn't get out. And then my other neighbor died, Uncle Johnny, and this is when, within less than half a mile, they both died. That gets a little emotional when you see it going down there, because I care about people, a little bit. And so I finally got to the house, and it was gone. The house, the guest house, and the RV were gone. It's just wasteland, devastation.
The fire destroyed more than 100 homes, sheds, and other buildings. It also largely destroyed the town of Klamath River. The fire raged through the tiny community of about 200, destroying most of the town's homes along with the post office, community hall, and other scattered businesses.
I think you're in shock first, and then second, you don't try to think about stuff because, you might get emotional. But when I buried the cat yesterday, one of our cats, it was a little emotional. These are animals. You feel sorry for them. There's no sense in it, but I've never seen such a wasteland. There was no birds. There's nothing. Nothing.
82-year-old Harleen Schwander also lost her Klamath River home, as well as most of her belongings. She had just moved to the town about a month ago to be closer to her son and daughter-in-law, whose home survived the fire. She said she'll stay with her son's family once evacuation orders are lifted.
I looked out, I saw smoke. I thought, I better get out of here. Then, like a few minutes later, the fire department said, you better get out of here. And so I did, and I left everything. And I'm sad, and everybody says it was just stuff, but it was all I had. And I've been single for a long time, and I'm gonna have to cope.
Fire officials said crews were able to use bulldozers to carve fire breaks along a ridge to protect homes and buildings in the county seat of Yreka. The McKinney fire burned over 58,000 acres and is 10% contained. A smaller fire near the tiny community of Happy Camp forced evacuations and road closures.
The large auto insurance giant GEICO has closed its branches in California. It's the latest private insurance company to reduce business operations in the state. An expert on corporate site selection told NTD what business reasons may be behind leaving the Golden State.
The large car insurance company GEICO announced the closure of all its 38 local offices in the Golden State. Locally owned branch offices were told of the company's decision in a 2-minute Zoom call at the beginning of August. John Boyd, principal of the Boyd Company, told NTD that auto insurance is one of the least profitable sectors of the insurance industry.
And California is a very litigious and expensive place to do business. So we view this really as a cost-cutting move. It's important to know that insurance companies do leave markets that are no longer profitable.
NTD reached out to GEICO for comments. So far, the company has only responded to the California capital city-based Sacramento Bee. A GEICO spokesperson said California's GEICO customers can still buy insurance policies online and will continue to write policies for the more than 2 million customers currently insured. GEICO's website no longer lists California as an option to browse for local agents.
In the near term, it'll make it more difficult for consumers that have limited internet access, as well as customers that prefer to do business one-on-one with a insurance agent. Given the size of GEICO, I doubt they're planning to pull out of the California market in the near term. However, I would not rule that out as a possibility in the long term.
Boyd says disasters can make California a risky market for insurance companies to do business.
It has both man-made and natural disasters. Natural disasters like wildfires and earthquakes and flash flooding, as well as man-made challenges like rampant crime and lawlessness and undocumented drivers.
Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway is the owner of GEICO, which reported a 53% drop in earnings for the first quarter of 2022. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
We are going to take a short break, but here's a look at what we've got for you when we come back. Californians try to be as green as possible, but one expert says there is actually a dirty process behind it. Energy workers are warning about energy policies, say it can hurt the consumer. Another expert explains how it's harmful. And a housing proposal in Southern California is being criticized. Protesters say they want to save the horses on that chosen property. That and more on California Today. California strives to be as green as possible, so much so that there have been debates about getting rid of fossil fuels by a certain year and replacing it with green energy. But one expert says we may pay more to get electricity that's branded green, something he describes as the state's clean energy dirty secrets.
Jim Phelps, a California utility expert, spent 35 years in the power industry as an engineering contractor and utility rate analyst. He talked to California insider McKinney about greenwashing and how it's deceiving state consumers.
Greenwashing in the electricity industry is where you take a dirty product, a dirty energy product, and you apply a little bit of magic, sleight of hand, little smoke and mirrors, and the consumer feels like, hey, wow, you know, I got something that's green and I'm feeling good about myself, and I spent a little bit of money on this, and it was a little bit more than I thought, but it's green, it's saving the planet, and you know, great. In reality, you aren't getting what you think you got. You're getting dirty power.
According to Phelps, renewable energy is authenticated by a certificate. 1 megawatt of power is accompanied by a certificate.
So you have a certificate that's a standalone that goes to the consumer's energy portfolio, and then because you can't run your toaster on a certificate, they buy the energy company that's selling you this stuff goes out and buys just brown power, and they deliver that brown power under the certificate.
So you buy a certificate of somebody that has solar, and then you get the coal or whatever type power you have.
Exactly.
And you put them together
exactly
and make it green.
Exactly right. And that's allowed. That's legal in California. It's about 3% of the portfolio.
Solar power is the second type of greenwashing. Phelps explained that companies will over-procure or buy solar and sell it.
Well, they keep the certificates. They sell off that power. Then they go into another market and they just buy brown power. It's inexpensive. And they deliver that to you at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night or whenever the sun isn't shining, for sure. And they need the power. And then they report to the regulators that they've delivered so much green power.
The power is sold off as unspecified power, which makes it legal. The third type of greenwashing is hydropower. Phelps says a large hydro does not have a renewable energy certificate-based tracking system. They have an instrument called environmental attributes. It's a problem because there's no tracking. Oftentimes, the consumers end up paying more, but they feel good about being green.
The people in California that are engaged or involved in all of this greenwashing type activity have one thing on their mind, and that is to be as green and clean appearing as they can. And by virtue of doing that, they're charging customers or consumers to be a part of the green energy program. But with all of this gamesmanship behind the scenes and all this exporting of dirty power and, well, we got clean, so aren't we green? You may be, but you just exported dirty, and so what are you doing for the environment?
To address the problems in the electric industry, Phelps believes there needs to be good people in leadership roles who are balanced and understand how things work.
To watch the full program, find California Insider on YouTube or Epoch TV on the Epoch Times website. California gas and oil workers are warning consumers across the United States about what they're calling harmful and reckless climate change and energy policies. NTD's Daniel Hall hears from a gasoline association expert on what this means for consumers.
The Western States Petroleum Association, or WSPA, is bringing California Governor Gavin Newsom's energy policies to consumers' attention. He intends to ban the sale of all new gas-driven vehicles in the state by 2035. The organization is running ads in Florida and Texas comparing state energy policies to those in California.
We pay $1.65 more for a gallon of gas than you do. Our electricity rates are twice as high as yours. Gavin Newsom is banning gas cars and shutting down California oil production.
Kevin Slagle, Vice President of Strategic Communications for the WSPA, warned that these policies will have not just a negative effect on gas vehicle drivers, but also all Californians.
That phase out is going to mean higher costs for those who rely on internal combustion engine cars. There are going to be fewer gas stations, and it's going to be tougher to find fuels for those cars moving forward. And more than anything, it's just going to be more higher costs as our economy is not ready for these cars.
Newsom signed an executive order to ban gas vehicles in September 2020. This was during the state's COVID lockdown state of emergency, which continues until today, allowing him to bypass both legislative and voter approval. In tandem with Newsom's plans, the California Air Resource Board published a proposal in April that would increase electric vehicle sales by 35% in the state by 2026. Slagle says the governor is pushing people to use electric vehicles before the technology is mature and infrastructure is developed.
We shouldn't be forced into that decision right now. Infrastructure is not ready yet. And that's one of the points we've been trying to make to the governor is look, we can reach our climate goals without having to jump all in on a ban or a mandate to get us there.
Slagle added that he is supportive of the electric vehicle industry and would rather that the different organizations can find a way to work together to provide energy needs.
We're saying slow down. Let's find other ways, that involve all forms of energy, including fossil fuels, to get us to these climate goals.
The WSPA is hoping their campaign efforts will bring awareness to other states about such policy implementation. Newsom's office deferred comment to the California Energy Commission, who said, quote, "State agencies are monitoring additional electricity demand that will be required and planning now for load growth expected over the next 10 to 15 years. Daniel Hall, NTD News, California.
Environmental groups won again in this week's settlement with the Federal Bureau of Land Management. The settlement requires the agency to shut down new oil and gas drilling until a fresh review of environmental harms is completed.
Governor Gavin Newsom and Attorney General Rob Bonta announced on August 1st a settlement with the Federal Bureau of Land Management, or BLM. The agreement will shut down new oil and gas drilling on more than 1 million acres of public land in Central California. The settlement prohibits the federal government from leasing any of the land for drilling until it conducts more studies on the environmental impacts of fracking, the process used to extract oil and gas from rock. The dispute over federal drilling activity began in 2013. A judge ruled that the federal land agency illegally issued leases without analyzing the environmental impact of fracking. In 2020, California filed a lawsuit claiming the BLM's initial environmental review of the project failed to fully evaluate the, quote, significant and adverse impacts on the environment. The BLM has not held a lease sale in California since the 2013 court ruling. Environmental groups applauded this week's settlement announcement.
Recent Yorba Linda housing proposals face scrutiny from the public. While the community filled up a council meeting, their protests only brought mixed success.
Equestrian owners in Yorba Linda are taking issue with the new rezoning plan. That plan comes from the state mandating cities to rezone land for housing. Yorba Linda is obligated by the state to zone for over 2,400 housing units. Those units are expected in what has been named the housing cycle, which dates from 2021 to 2029. During a city council meeting on August 2nd, residents, including the protesting horse owners, filled the council chambers along with an overflow area set up in the city hall. One of the attendees at the city council meeting was 40-year-old resident and horse owner D.D. Friedrich. She told the Epic Times, "The problem is the locations that they've chosen. We wouldn't be here tonight if they chose, in our opinion, better locations." She was one of the over 12 residents riding, walking, and holding signs that displayed "Save the Horses" and "No Rezone." Their protest met with mixed success as 3 properties were taken out of the plan. However, an additional 23 properties will still be rezoned for housing.
Now to NTD's Thomas Christian for an update on sports.
I'm Thomas Christian, giving you the California Today Sports Roundup.
The fans were roaring down in San Diego even before the first pitch was thrown. As Juan Soto took the outfield at the top of the first, it was clear the crowd felt the beginning of a new era in Padres baseball. Batting second in the lineup, Soto took a 4-pitch walk for his first at-bat, although fans surely thought he would go yard in his debut. Instead, Soto walked twice, grounded out twice, and singled. Still, a strong showing for the 23-year-old who got the privilege of getting his feet wet against a weaker Colorado Rockies side. Instead of Soto, another newly minted Padre, Brandon Drury, homered in his first at-bat with the bases loaded. His first at-bat a grand slam, and the ballgame was practically over before it started. Manny Machado would also homer in the 5th, and Blake Snell would allow the only Rockies score in 6 innings pitched. Padres 9, Rockies 1. You get more hits, you get more runs. Simple, right? Now tell that to the San Francisco Giants, who out-hit the Dodgers 8-6 on Wednesday night, but couldn't seem to crack the scoreboard in their 7th straight loss to Los Angeles. Joey Bart had 3 hits, and Brandon Belt had 2 to lead the Giants, who will play the Dodgers once again on Thursday. Miguel Vargas recorded 2 RBIs to lead the Dodgers, a ground rule double in the 2nd to bring in Trace Thompson, and took an infield single so Max Muncy could cross home plate as well. Alex Cobb allowed 2 of the Dodgers' 3 runs in 6 1/3 innings pitched for the Giants. Craig Kimbrell came in for relief to get the save for LA. Dodgers 3, Giants 0. The International Cricket Council will make a presentation to the Los Angeles Olympics organizers later this month in its bid for the sport to return to the Games after a gap of 128 years, sources told Reuters. Cricket has been shortlisted for potential inclusion at the 2028 Los Angeles Games, along with baseball, softball, flag football, lacrosse, breakdancing, karate, kickboxing, squash, and motorsport. Teams would play 2020 cricket, the sport's shortest international format, which has inspired the lucrative Indian Premier League and similar franchise-based competitions in other countries. The host city can include any sport, but needs approval of the International Olympic Committee. Cricket has not been played at the Olympics since its maiden appearance in the 1900 Games at Paris, where Britain beat a team of mostly English expatriates representing France by 158 runs to win gold. Despite initial obstruction from the powerful English and Indian cricket boards, the game has started to gain entry to multi-sports gatherings around the world. But considering cricket's low profile in the United States, many believe it has better chances of making the cut for the 2032 Olympics in Australia. The ICC, however, is determined to grow the game in the United States, which is cricket's 3rd largest broadcast market after India and Britain, due to the Indian and Pakistani diaspora. The ICC believes the 2028 Games will be the perfect showcase. Olympic sports remain in cricket's shadow in the subcontinent, so the ICC has based its bid around cricket's unrivaled popularity among the region's billion-plus fans.
And that's all for sports.
That's all we've got for you tonight. We'd like you to join us again on California Today every weekday at 8:30 p.m. Make sure to check out our broadcasts on our California webpage. You can find it at ntd.com/California-today. You can also find all of our top latest clips there, ready to share with friends and family. Send us a message on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, or through our email, california.today@ntd.com. I'm Liang Zhang. Have a wonderful evening.